Hello everyone, welcome to the Envision speaker event. My name is Angela DeFabio from the NBI team. I'd like to welcome everyone online. We also like to welcome Rex Buckingham, who's going to be our speaker today, and also to the people that have come here today. Really appreciate your attendance. So first we'll do a welcome to country. We respect the First Nation people, past, present and emerging. And the university campuses stand on 17 First Nation lands, so it's a big footprint. So our speaker today, leaders are very important in any organisation. Simon Sinek once said that leaders have power and position, but those that lead inspire. And so what we're going to talk about today, or what Rex is going to talk about today, is how is it that leaders can bring teams together and empower them to action, which is very, very important. So without further ado, I hand you over to Rex Buckingham. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. I'll just push the start button here so I know we're on time, and thank you for joining us today, all of you, and thank you also for coming in online. I was thinking about this for a couple of months now actually, and the first opening little bit very important. And I wasn't quite sure, I ought to know, but I wasn't quite sure what who was watching. So I don't know who you are out there. But when you're listening to me and watching the slides, and when you're here listening, if there's something I say you don't agree with, then I want you to ask. So you definitely ask, but otherwise just type your question in and I'll stop what I'm doing and we'll talk about it. So I've got 147 slides. Well, not quite that many, but it'll fit in and it'll work. But it's only going to work if you get something out of what I'm saying. If I get through all the slides and I've done all the slides and you think, oh, ha, or you've turned off, don't you turn off, because it gets better every 5 minutes. So you stay in there with me, okay? And I've locked the door here so you can't get out. I have turned on, haven't I? Can't you even hear me? I've got it turned on. Did you miss all that? Well, hang in and I'll endeavour to make it better as we go. So sound check's okay now? Okay, righto. So I was thinking about it. So as I understand it, the people here are in start-up businesses and some established businesses. And I understand out there you could be in marketing or you could be in leadership or management, or I don't know who you are. That's why it's important that you ask me questions so I can tailor what I'm doing. I have written a book called Develop Through Leadership Thinking, and I haven't come to hawk the book, but in an hour and talking about leadership, there's sort of two sides to it. There is what is leadership, and there's how do you transmit from being whoever you are today to what leadership is, or if you're really leadership now, how can you just get that extra little bit out of it to make it worthwhile? So that's what I'm saying today is in the book. And I've got a special offer, which you only hear about if you hang in there with me. So I thought I'd start with a story. It's about me. So my name's Rex Buckingham, and my parents put together a lot of money to send me to a very swanky private school. And I went there from 4 until the end of my 14th year. And I was incredibly successful at being the most unsuccessful boy that ever been to school. Like I was the dud. I was the dud academically, I was the dud from a sports point of view. The only thing I ever got good at was stuttering. And so by the end of my 14th year, I couldn't get a second word out without being very embarrassed and mostly incoherent. And so somewhere I got the confidence to say to my headmaster, I think I should leave. And he agreed. We got mum and dad in, and they agreed. And so I went for a job. And I went for a job at Woolworths. This was way, way back, before most of you watching today were even born probably. And they wanted one person and they had 32 applicants. And there was terrazzo stairs leading up to where the man interviewing was, at 2IC of the shop. It was in Rundle Mall. And I'm watching people go in and come out, and I'm getting further up the stairs, and any moment now it'll be my turn, and my heart's pounding because I can't speak. I'm going to walk in, there I am going to be a blithering idiot. So I got through all of my schooling every year, the teacher telling the next teacher, this is Rex's grades, they would expect me to be that, and I lived down every year to what their expectation was. I walked in and met this man. Out of the 32 people, he hired me. Now, I asked him about 6 months later, why did you hire me? He said, you were the boy who needed it most. And within 6 weeks, this is a long time ago, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, within 6 weeks, my stutter had almost completely gone. I signed up for night school. At the end of the year, having passed an entire year and going into what would have been year 12 from year 10, missing year 11 completely, I was third from top. So a dud all my life, couldn't speak, and within 6 weeks I'm speaking, and within the year I'm topping the class, missing out an entire year. So I'll talk about that. That's leadership. He found a way to connect with me, and he found a way to give me self-esteem. And out of that self-esteem, I was able to grow. Does that conversation connect with anybody? That's leadership. Leadership is more important in many ways than the GP, the local doctor. You know, I have diverticulitis at the moment, so a bit of pain happening around here. And I went to the doctor, he said, you should lay down. I could have gone to a manager back in those days who was a command and control manager, and I could have stayed the same underperforming person all my life. But they encouraged me up, they believed in me. That's leadership. That's the difference it made to me. No telling where I'd be today if that man hadn't said, come on board. And then he and all the other staff treated me with that kind of expectation. Amazing impact on me, and that's why I'm still doing it today. Okay, the role leaders play in how to interrelate with others, peers and superiors. So someone here was saying earlier about they are not the chief person in the business, but they are an important person. And sometimes we don't know quite how to interact with the senior person. Someone else I was talking to earlier has come from another country, and that other country has a different sort of management style and a different capacity to interact. And the conversation we had was that it was more of a hierarchical society, whereas Australia, generally speaking, we call it a fairly flat society. Well, I'd say to some degree, that's not how it is. I would say to a fair degree, or an unfair degree, that we are a pretty command and control society still, even though it's flatter. We still get told what to do and what to think a fair bit of the time. So as you wander through this, we'll see where it all takes us. Now, will I get the right button? Here we go. Okay, so if we address first of all what gets in the way of leadership. So I've addressed it as impediments, and you can all read, and I don't want to read it out, but there are functional things. I think the biggest thing that gets in the way of leadership is we tend to do what the person does to us, our manager does to us. My wife's a kindergarten teacher, and she'll tell me every year that when the 42 or 43 young little kindergarten kids come into the class, there'll be 3 or 4 who pick their nose. That's disgusting, isn't it? But there'll be 35 or 36 who don't. But by the end of a 3-hour session, guess what? People here in front of me, what do you think happens to the other kids? If the 3 or 4 are picking the nose, what do you reckon could happen to the other kids? Speak up.
They all pick their nose.
Well, not all of them, Henry, but certainly it's because that little person with the picking nose thing is a leader. And we don't want to be left out, so we do the thing this person's doing. And it's also naughty. And naughty is pretty sexy, because naughty is what we sort of practicing as a little kid. See, leadership happens at all different levels, at home and at work. So hierarchical, gender, age, education, but a lot of leadership doesn't happen because we don't have leadership about ourselves. We don't have a good feeling about ourselves. We live in a little bit of uncertainty about ourselves, and that's because we've got to pay the mortgage. And if we speak up, we may not, and someone has told me earlier today, if we speak up where I come from, we may get a call that night to say we have no job. So it's tricky. So if you have come from overseas and you have come from a different culture, I still really believe we need to have a capacity to get people to feel free and safe to say what they think. even in strictly hierarchical situations. So stay with me, and don't forget, any questions or you want to argue, pop it online and I'll be stopped and we'll attend to it. Sometimes leaders like to own the information, so they don't tell you a lot of the information, and then they ask you what you think, and you give an answer to what you think, but you don't know the parameters of what to think. So if you give an answer which is not what I want to hear, what am I liable to answer to you about your idea? Alana Rose, what? Yes, I'm going to ask all of you, so you be prepared, because I'm going to include you, and I want you to include yourselves. If I say, I no, what are you liable to do?
Conform.
Pardon?
Conform.
Conform and withdraw, you know, because you just got shot down. And we don't wake up each morning wanting to be shot down, and yet so much conversation is, no, I've thought of it before, that wouldn't work. So stay with me. Push the button. I get asked so often, we need more good staff. And I say, who hired the staff you have now? Well, I did. Okay, so what's happening here if you've got rubbish staff who are not the right staff? Well, they seem to change. Or you mean they change when they get impacted on by your behaviour? So let's talk about your behaviour, and then you may not need to have new staff. You may be able to encourage and involve the staff you currently have, because these are people, you know. I used to own a recruitment company, and I would sometimes say to potential clients, I'm sorry I can't work for you because I wouldn't feel safe in bringing someone out of a job and putting them in your organisation, because all I hear from you is absolute command and control. And I have a responsibility to the candidate not to take them out of a secure job and put them into a toxic environment. So I'm sorry I can't do it for you. And they'd say things like, well, this is $120,000, this is a $200,000 job. Yeah, well, that's right. So good luck with whoever else you're going to use, but I'm not going to be involved. So we need to make sure, as leadership, is sharing the information, talking to people and trusting people. Gain a real sense of the attributes of a leader that will help in connecting with people. So growing in leadership, understand the attributes of the people you have. So there's a thing called a skills matrix. There's a thing which identifies all the processes of the business and what you need to know to be able to do the work that we ask you to do. So very often we don't do that. So we just walk past you and we give it to the same person. But again, this is all going to unravel as we go through the situation further. And when I'm talking, I'm expecting you to be reading this. And you people here today in front of me, I'll be asking you questions about what was on the board, so pay attention. Effective leader is a person who does the following. Collaboration. That means I come up and I ask you what you think, and I listen to what you say, and I take into account what you say, and I do not shoot you down, even if I don't agree with what you said. Because there was a survey done some time ago in America, a huge survey about culture, and the result was that something like 34% of people actively sabotage the business each day. 34%. Now, sabotaging doesn't mean they were blowing up the business, but have you ever been on the phone waiting to speak to somebody and suddenly the phone goes dead? Has that ever happened to you? That could be IT. IT will be blamed for it, but it could just be one of the staff members saying, they don't treat me well, and I'll just get that customer out the way. Come over here, sir. I saved the chair for you just here. This is the question chair. You get first questions, okay? So the promise of the webinar is talking about creating visions, creating visions, not being told visions. Leadership flows down into problem solving, working with difficult situations. It's amazing how often I'm told, I have a difficult person. You need to come and work with this person, they are difficult. Well, more often than not, it's just a difficult situation. But as soon as you put it to a personality, then you lose the thing, because in the first place we hired you because of who you were, and now you're a difficult personality. So if we don't do anything with the boss, then we're probably going to have a difficult personality. And if we get rid of that person and we hire a new person, what kind of personality are we going to find? probably another difficult personality. Because why do people act differently? Why do people get turned off of being turned on? That's a question, Henry. Why do people, see, that's why I asked the names. Why do people who were once connected suddenly not participate?
I guess because they feel they'll not be recognized for what contributions they want to bring in.
Henry said because they're not being recognised. That's exactly right. They're not being listened to. They're not being taken into account. And negotiation, achieving mastery in these and other management objectives, they all interrelate together. Now, the PowerPoint is available on as an email out to you, and I'd say if you're currently, whatever you're doing, see, leadership isn't just about business. You know, I was a son. Well, I still have a son. I am a husband of 46 years. I have 2 beautiful kids, and I have 4 wonderful grandchildren, and I'm a leader. But I can remember my most wonderful daughter coming home from school one day when she was about 7, and my wife and I would sometimes have a little unpleasant conversation, or not a totally pleasant conversation, and she said to me, well, she said to the family, so she was maybe 7, her brother would have been 9, today we were talking at school about meetings, and when something goes wrong, don't get cross with each other, but have a meeting. So we're going to have a meeting tonight, and I'm going to be the chairperson, and Anthony's going to be the treasurer. Well, there's money involved, is there? Of course there's money involved, Dad. And we sat down and we said, now, we heard you two not being pleasant. So let's talk about what happened there. And she's that age, and she's leading the family. Leadership is available anywhere at any time if we just don't get sucked up in the emotional or what can and can't change. This is a really good place to start to work out where you are. And I've got another company I'm working with currently doing this. Each manager's doing it with their staff, and they're asking the staff to say, what is Rex's ability to listen? What's his desire to listen? And we're asking them to make a statement about me, or them actually, so that they get some feedback. And then we've asked him to send that feedback directly back to me. Because in leadership, sometimes people talk about a thing called a 360-degree leadership survey. Well, if you're really connected and we get on really, really well, I probably already know what you're going to say. But if we are, I won't put that on anybody here, if we are not terribly connected, I'm probably not going to say much at all, because I don't want to get hammered by you because I said something negative about you. So this kind of thing here can work really well. So when you get the PowerPoint, please interact with Envision and get the PowerPoint sent out to you. It's really worthwhile doing this, and just on yourself, in the first place, on yourself. Where am I in my current state? What do I think I am in my current state? And what do I have to do? What do I have to do to be an active listener? What happens normally is, there's a thing called the 80-20 rule. Has anybody ever heard of the 80-20 rule? You have, and you have, and you have. Good. A lot of the team we already get on quite well with, but some of the team we don't get on so well with. So a lot of this conversation about enlivening leadership is about reconnecting with people who we have disconnected with. So we need to know what we need to think about ourselves, not about how they should change, but about how we should change. So if you look at those things down there, holding back on judgment. Again, in the kindergarten, if a little boy or little girl throws sand on the other one, boy or girl, within 4 minutes, they're playing together again. But in adult life, if I'm walking down the passageway and I'm busy and I've got thoughts on my mind and I don't say hi to you as you walk past me, it's very possible for you to think I'm being a snob or I'm dismissing you, and for you to start taking an attitude about me. Is that possible or not? Does that resonate at all? For some reason we get spikier as we get older rather than cleverer or more genuine or more generous. You know, we get spikier. So next time I'm walking down the hall, I don't say hi to you. Now I'm the manager, so now I'm starting to think you have a behavioural problem. Because I judge, and I find fault, and I find blame. See, these are not leadership things. Okay, we'll talk about it more. Hang in, it gets better. engaging, connecting. It's sort of counterintuitive. If I ask you to do a job and you say you can't do it, and I leave you in the you can't do it, and I walk away and I ask someone else to do it, I've actually disconnected from you. Even though you might like to say I have disconnected, you have disconnected from me, because I walked away from you and I'm supposed to be the leader. So a leader is more likely to say, oh, that's interesting, Grace. I would have thought that was within your experience, but if it's not, it's certainly within your job description. So we need to get it done, so what's a good time? And I'll get Harry to come around and he'll walk you through with it so you can include it in your skills. That's connection, that's respect, that's trust. Walking away and giving, you may, well, looking at this wonderful group in front of me today, you're obviously all movers and shakers. And you could well have been people in your careers where people have come along and given you work to do because they didn't give it to someone who should have done it. Or they're giving it to you to do because someone who's been given it before didn't do it very well. Or they may in fact do it themselves because I might as well do it myself because otherwise I only have to do it again. Does any of that resonate with anybody? Yeah? So we need to make sure that we don't use command and control language and everything we do is about connecting with the other person. Command and control, through my eyes, is when we go around telling people. Another word for command and control is micromanagement. Has anyone here ever felt like they've been micromanaged? Yeah? Now, not bad people, usually insecure people, but not bad people, but sometimes people who just don't understand what leadership's about. They think, well, the other day I was talking to a client, he said, we want to get someone in to talk leadership to our whole company, 1,000 people. And we're thinking about a senior military person or a football coach. Now, they live in command and control. You don't go up to the coach at half time and say, well, I think I'll do this in the next quarter. You know, you don't do what the coach tells you. There is no next quarter. That's not leadership. That's command and control. Now, they will tell you that's the only way it can work. I have not yet had a chance to work with a football team, but I'm dying to because I'm sure that a lot of people could help work out skills that need to be worked on by some people in order to get a better end result, better than the coach. Anyway, we move on. I must be pushing the button. If I'm pushing the button, but I shouldn't be pushing the button, someone tell me, okay? I'm not in charge completely. I might give it to somebody else and ask you to do it. Okay, visions. It seems to have come down in time that I own the business, and so therefore I'll tell you what my vision is. Do you have a vision in your business? Is there a vision?
Well, yes, but I'm part of the NVI team, so it's our shared.
But what is it? Oh, no, sorry, I apologise. That's very rude of me. If I did ask you, which would be less rude, could you repeat it?
I think so.
Okay, Henry, you have a small organisation.
Yes.
Do you have a vision?
Yes, I do.
And Grace, do you have I didn't meet you yet. Hello. What kind of business are you working in?
Digital marketing.
Okay. Are you part of?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes and no.
Yes and no. Sort of covered all the bases there. Have you got a vision in your business?
Yes.
Would you know what it is? I'll stop asking the question.
Yeah.
Are you sitting back up there, wherever you are, having your morning coffee? Have a think about the business you work for. Is there a vision, and do you know it? And if you know it, is it alive? Is that what runs the business every day? Is that what gets you out of bed each day? Because you're going to be part of delivering on the vision. Because in most cases, if I walked around with a $100 note and said, if you can tell me what the vision is, here's $100, I'd walk out with the same money. Because most people don't know it, because it's owned by me and you do as I tell you. Well, that's not the deal. The deal is, let's talk about the vision. And the company I owned some years ago, it was only a small company, 25 people, I took them all away for 2 days. And we did nothing else but talk about what will we stand for? what will be our raison d'etre? And if I'm not available when a client needs an answer to something, you will be empowered to give the answer. Now, if it's a $47,000 answer, maybe you might want to try and contact me a bit more. But seriously, after we leave here today, what the vision says is what we do. And whether you answer it or I answer it, it'll be the same answer, because that's what we stand for. So the owner and the principal or the senior officer or the chair, they might walk in thinking it's their job, but their job is to be a leader and their job is to be able to interact with you to find out what you think the business is. So once I know what you think it is, what you think the value should be, then we can come to an agreement, not consensus, but come to an agreement, this is what we all stand for. And if somebody says, no, I don't believe in that, well, that's okay. You should go and find a job somewhere else. Have you ever gone into a shop or into an office and you think this person definitely shouldn't be working in this environment? Yes, almost every day, because they don't fit the vision. But they hang in there, and every day a customer comes in or a client comes in, they get mucked around by this person, and that client sees this person who they think is the vision, and they make their value judgment on the business by the way that person acts. So the vision's got to be owned, not me, this is me, you listen carefully, and this is what you do, because it doesn't work. Now this is the Flinders University vision, and I wonder whether this slide will get through, but it has. So to be internationally recognised as a world leader in research, an innovator in contemporary education, and the source of Australia's most enterprising graduates. And I just put up an alternative, just using much the same words. Through developing Australia's most enterprising graduates, and with them, Flinders University will be a world leader. Do you see any difference between those two statements?
Seems better.
Because?
I think it's better explained, it reads better. Seems to be a better result.
Because?
Because it's more meaningful.
Yeah. Anybody else?
It's more inclusive.
Have we had any questions yet?
No, that's okay.
Come on, I'm expecting at least a dozen more questions in the next 10 minutes, so stop just looking, don't go away, pop in a chat and they'll ask me.
Because it has a cause and effect.
Has a cause and effect. And the cause is what?
Developing Australia's most enterprising graduates.
Yes, people. The whole sense of it's people. You know, like, they're not I'm not that fond of words like human capital. I mean, you know, this is capital. You know, human beings, I don't mind. And so, yes, it's the people that we develop here that will give us this, cause and effect. Anyway, maybe it's being a little bit pedantic, but I don't think so. I think it's putting the emphasis where I think as a graduate I'd feel more empowered by it. Any comment? Problem solving. Now this is really important. If you get nothing else out of today, this is really important. If you want to be a leader, stop being the solution. Stop walking around and being the solution. Be the asker of questions. Be the sharer of knowledge. But stop being the solution. Stop telling. Stop telling. Stop always telling. It's so easy. I wrote this book, I told you about it a moment ago. And I'm doing the final draft. So my wife and I go into the Crown Plaza in the city for 2 nights, and we're going to, this is my chance to have a bit of quiet, and I'm going to do the final draft. Actually, it was the final draft 1. It wasn't final draft 5, that's another story altogether. And we're sitting by the pool, and I've got the book there, and I've got my little marker, and I'm making the final adjustments, and my wife's next to me, and my wife's showing no interest whatsoever in this book. None. Hasn't even read it yet. She said to me, I reckon I've heard it all your life, Rex. I don't need to read it in a book. And my grandson comes along, you'll see his picture shortly, and he's standing at the end of the swimming pool, and I say to him, don't jump in until I get there. And what do you reckon he did? He's 3.5. What do you reckon he did? 1, 2, 3. Out loud, 1, 2, 3. Jumped in, that's right. And my wife, who's shown no interest in my book at all, said to me, oh, that was stupid, wasn't it? and negative got a negative. Well, I don't know whether she read the book slightly under the pillow or something. So he got out of the pool, and I said to him, and he went straight around, and I said to him, oh, will you wait for Papa to come and we'll jump in together? So I took away the tell, and I put in the inquiry question. And of course she stood there waiting for Papa. So, it would have been natural for a parent to get happy or cross when the child jumped in the pool. Cross. And would it be happy then for the day just to move along in that situation? How many times did I have to tell you? You may have heard that statement perhaps. Okay? But it's easy for us to blame the kid. He's 3 years old. It's easy for us to first judge him and say, oh no, he never listens to us. Well, shut up. Just stop always telling. You know, get involved in asking the questions. That's leadership. As soon as I use the skills I have and the knowledge I have, and I actually got my mouth out of the way and put my mind into gear, we jumped in the pool together. And the day proceeded in a happy way. Don't be the teller. Don't be the solution. Be the facilitator. I was saying to somebody here earlier today, I've been asked by a company to come and give them a hand because the owner said I can never get the executive of 7 people to participate, to actually show initiative. So I said I'll come along and I'll sit in the group with you. And I sat in the group and I said to him at the end, do you ever shut up? Like, where was the chance for anybody to say anything? And one person who said something, your answer was, that wouldn't work. So if you want people to actually participate, you're going to have to give them a chance. So we introduced into that conversation the thing called intelligent disobedience. And the week after he and I chatted a little bit, he introduced the concept of when we are in the meeting, if Andrew says something in answer to trying to solve a problem, nobody else can agree. Because there's got to be more than one answer. But what I was seeing was when Andrew said something, everybody did this. And then when they went outside to get their glass of water or coffee, they did this. Because they didn't believe, but they didn't feel like they could say something. And by the way, Andrew's a powerful person who wants to get offside with Andrew. And anyway, if I say something and it goes wrong, then it was my fault. So for fear of being found faulty, I'll go along with Andrew, because if it doesn't work, it's Andrew's fault. But it's a strategy that's probably not going to work because no one else at the table picked it up. So we've got to get away from telling. So if anything you get out of today, if you think that you're telling, and if you do that matrix of questions about being a leader, if you just do that and get a sense of who you are today, and you pull back at home and at work about always being the solution. I was at a meeting earlier, and I'm supposed to be looking after my grandchild, William, and my granddaughter, Josie, tomorrow at 12:30. And I was invited to a pretty important meeting at 11:30, so now I'm conflicted. I've got a 12:30 time, I must be home to look after the little grandchildren, and this meeting I really want to go to at 11:30. So I rang my wife just to check I had the times right, and she said, oh yes, it's my hair. You know, I've already made it change twice, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, she's okay, leave it with me, I'll make a phone. No, I'll do it. No, you don't have to do it. I'm the one who's changed the arrangement. Let me do it. No, I can do it. No, I'm going to hang up now and I'm going to do it and I'll ring you back with a response. And I made a phone call, fixed it up, rang her back, said it's all okay. Now, my wife just wanted to be helpful, or she wanted to be the solution, but she didn't have to be. You know, very often we keep putting ourselves back in the same situation where other people are there and other people can also take on responsibility.
I have a question.
Question,
Yeah.
please. Henry.
Yeah. When you say being a facilitator, I've been in a situation before where you have people you're working with and they don't want to think, they want to be told.
Okay. The question was, in experience, that some people want to be told. And that is, I hear that all the time. That is a reflection on how you listen to them. Now, I'm just talking generally here, Henry, I don't know you. It's how you listen. They don't want to be told. People want to be included. People want to be respected. People want to be trusted. Absolutely. That's what they want to be. but they want to be safe. They don't want to be found to be faulty. A lot of people, Rex, when he was 3, 4, 5, 6, through to 14, I didn't put my hand up for fear of being wrong. That's the big fear. People who come to different classes don't put their hand up because their experience at school was being no. People don't want to be wrong, so they don't participate. So it's how we handle the input, how we are the leader, we are responsible. It finishes here. If we get a feeling that people don't want to be involved, it's the way we go about it. Now, you could argue, so I don't want to persecute this question right down to the end, that not everybody's like that. I would argue they are, but they are closer or further away from realising it. But there's just so much to be got from people and their experiences and their input and their commitment to the process. So I hear what you say, I often hear it, and I'm happy to talk to you about it afterwards. People, if you listen carefully and you do it effectively, you'll find people will dare to say something. Now, I'm looking at your eyes, I'm not quite sure I've actually made any headway there, but we'll keep going and see what happens. This here, 1 plus a number equals greater than the sum of the number. That's leadership. So I think I know what I'm saying right now. And I've said it lots of times, I've been doing this for all of my life, and I'm very confident that what I'm saying has been proven by time. But I don't know you. Well, I do know you, but I don't know you, sir.
Yes, you do.
Oh, I do know you. Well, there you go. I know more now. So your face was familiar, but we'll get there afterwards. But I don't necessarily know what you think, and I need to know what you think. So when you say what you think, I know more than what I used to know. Now I know what I think I know, and I know what you've said you know. That's more. So now I can think about what you just said, which I didn't know before. And when I think about what you just said, there's stuff happening out here that wasn't even on the table earlier, because now there's the benefit of what you said. And when I thought, so would that work like this? Now we're saying this, which is brand new thought, and now you can say, yes, it would, but how about this? And next thing you know, we've got 3 or 4 lots of thinking happening because I've bothered to listen to you. So listening is an incredibly important part of leadership. Get rid of the word difficult people and think about the situation of difficult situations. One of the travesties of performance management is people being too scared to have what's known as difficult conversations, or the absence of emotional intelligence. I take it you're reading this, everybody. When Rex morphed from this amoeba at 15 into something worthwhile, that was me moving from living down to expectation to living up to expectation. And that applies just as much to our kids as it does to us personally, as it does to people who we work with. People live up to or down to expectations. So I lived down every year to the expectation I had at school. I lived up every year to the expectation I had at Woolworths because of the trust they gave me. And I could look back over my shoulder and I could see I was actually starting to do something. But the trouble is, on the negative side, once I start to believe I'm as bad as you think I am as bad as you think I am, and I can't even believe I can be better. So I certainly don't participate. I certainly don't put my head above the parapets. This will come to you by email, the PowerPoint presentation. I really, really urge you to take it out and have a go at it. And when you've done that, to hand it around to people who you interact with and get them to give us the feedback. And that could even be husbands and wives. But I always run a little bit low on the suggestions of doing husband and wife things because we already have a high rate of divorce in Australia. Takeaways. Learn to listen. In order to listen, there is usually a question to be asked. Ask open-ended questions. Enter conversations wanting to hear what people have to say, not wanting them to hear your agreement, even though you may be fully... Has anyone here ever had a really definite idea about something, only to find out they weren't right? I know where I left the keys. I put the keys down there, I haven't been back since. Who moved the keys? Like, I've got smiley faces all over the place here now. Oh no, they're in my pocket still. You know, we can really feel like we know something, but we don't know we know it until we've challenged it. We don't know we know it until we've asked other people, what do you think? And we do that with an open mind. Whoops. You're supposed to tell me when I'm... You could see it, couldn't you? You didn't tell me where I got to. Okay. Learn to give feedback. We have a thing called criticism and we have a thing called feedback. Has anyone here ever been criticised? What does criticised make you feel like? Up or down? Who hopes when they wake up each morning to go to work and be criticised? Yippee, you stupid idiot! Probably not. So criticism is hard on the person, soft on the problem. Because we don't ever say, oh, by the way, you could do it like this next time. So we want to get rid of criticism in the house and in the workplace. We give feedback. And feedback is hard. I have a question. It's hard on the problem, soft on the person. So it keeps the person's mind open. Has anyone ever heard the statement, I might as well be talking to a brick wall? Did that ever get through to Malaysia? Yeah. How many times do I have to tell you? Did that ever get through to Malaysia? Yeah. That's because I'm not listening. You keep talking, I'm not listening.
So this is more of a question that I have from personal experiences. So sometimes when you receive feedback yourself, people tend to automatically take it to the negative, but you sort of got to learn to take it into a positive.
Yes.
How can we as leaders convey criticism in a way that it's not sort of condescending but very positive building, so that they don't automatically take it to a negative?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking it. We've got 12 minutes to go.
Do you want to repeat the question for people online?
Okay, so if I paraphrase it, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
But sometimes people take feedback negatively and they become defensive. So what should I do, being the person giving the feedback, to help you not be defensive? Well, first of all...
Oh, sorry, we have time. We can go over it.
Apparently we've had no questions whatsoever. So either I'm incredibly fluent, or you've signed off, or you're so busy taking notes. But I'm really expecting some questions. I've got this little laminated card which covers some of this stuff, because there's so much to learn about moving from where we are today, Rex moving from where he is today to where he wants to be. Well, first of all, I've got to work out where I am today, that's that thing, and then where I want to be, how to go about doing it. And there's a thing called responsibility. I mean, is it my responsibility to have you open? Is it my responsibility for you not to be defensive? Yes, it is. Because if I want to impact on you, I've got to have you with an open mind. And if you're defensive, your mind's closed. So I might as well be talking to a brick wall, just waste of time. The trouble is when I'm talking to you and I know you're not listening, I walk away thinking, I had a conversation. And I come back tomorrow and you're doing it again. I distinctly remember telling you yesterday not to do that. You may have told me, but I wasn't listening. Okay, so it is my responsibility to make sure we're connected. And so it's about sentences. And I'll talk about it in my book. If you want to change your life in areas which are not pleasant, change the sentences you go into your interactions, and you will have a chance to change your life. But what we tend to do, being creatures of habit and patterns, is we tend to keep repeating the same conversation. So you might as well just put a tape recorder in the middle of the room. Tape recorder, oh, how old is that? Cassette player, oh no, even older, almost. Okay, but we put in a recording device of some type. And I also say in the book, if you go and have coffee with somebody, your mum, your sister, your brother, the person you call your best friend, and you don't leave feeling at least as good as you were when you walked into the conversation, either don't go back or change your sentence. Have you ever gone into a conversation, met somebody that you don't want to meet, or that you know is going to drag you down? Yes or no? Oh, I saw movement on the camera. Okay, yes. Well, it's your life. You only get one go at it, but it's your responsibility to make it work. And you can walk away and you can tell your partner, oh God, I bet Rex again today. Well, why did you meet him? Or what do you want to do about it? That's leadership. Owning your output, owning your input, helping the input to be useful. So in answer to the question, if you're finding someone's being defensive, stop doing what you're doing, stop using the sentence you're doing, stop telling, and start asking. So I was going to talk to you about the phone call I heard you on before, and I just wondered about the conversation you had, because I didn't like the way you did it. So I don't come and say, I didn't like what you did today. Tell me about it. Now I suddenly find out the person at the other end of the phone was just expletive after expletive, and you actually did a really good job, but I was going to judge you as doing a pretty ordinary job. Well, I didn't have the facts, but I was just going to jump in and judge you. If I didn't like you, I might have even sacked you. If I liked you, I might have given you the chance just to listen to me have a go at you. So shut up and ask questions. Shut up. Can I use the word shut up on Okay. Beware of patterns and habits, you know. So much of life is patterns and habits. You know, we just keep doing it. Same haircut since I was at kindy, the same conversation. Hello dear, I'm home. Hi, how was your day? I mean, goodness, we're such clever people. We just keep repeating the same conversations. How boring. Change the subject. Change the conversation. Build up others. Find positive. But don't be scared to say the stuff that's not working. But when the stuff's not working, we need to understand what part of the stuff's not working and how can we get you to be able to do the stuff. We don't sign you off. I spoke about the idea of intelligent disobedience. There's so much groupthink happening in the community where people agree with people because they're too scared not to agree. And you know that things aren't too good in your environment when you say, I just feel in sync with you. Because if I just feel in sync with you, you're now no longer any use to me. You're just someone who's going to say yes. What I need is someone to challenge my idea. Otherwise, oh, yes, yes, oh, good. Yes, yes, no. Oh, hang on a second. When I ask you again, yes, yes. And people develop favourites. In the book I say, who here has children? Some of you have children? Any children? And I ask you the question, have you got a favourite? What answer do we give normally? Oh no, I love them all equally. Because I was just going to use an expletive there. We don't love them equally. You know, William, who's 3.5, he's not lovable at all right now. He's gorgeous, but lovable. Oh, little Alexander, who's 6 months old, oh, lovable. You know, who would I rather spend time right now? Oh, Alexander, like a William around me, he's quiet. William, he's all over me, he's doing all the wrong things because I'm a bad person in the way I talk. No, we have different times in our lives when people are less comfortable, but of course in the heart we still love them. But we don't help by loving them when they're naughty. We help by being emotionally intelligent when they're naughty so they know the parameters. That's leadership. So, well, my son said to me, we went to Buckingham Station for 4 days, the whole family, all 10 of us, and my wife and I were having a conversation, not the kind of conversation you want to talk about because it wasn't a happy one. And my son came in and said, Dad, you know, as a boy, I was scared of you. And I was a fly-in, fly-out dad. No, I wasn't a miner, but most of my work was in the eastern states. And he came around yesterday and he said, you know, Dad, I was never afraid of you. And I don't know why I said that. But what I knew was if I was going to get punished, it was going to be you. Because I'd done something that I wasn't supposed to do. And I needed to be brought back into line. I needed to know that wasn't an appropriate thing. So what I meant to say was, I got a lot of what I'm trying to do right now with my kids by the fact that you were consistent. You know, and I knew when I was doing something wrong that if you got to hear about it, there'd be some kind of consequence. And he said, you know, that really has helped me with the way I work. And that's a leadership quality, one of my very few moments I can tell you about. Can be early warning that two heads are not better than one. We need to have 1 plus a number equals greater than the sum of the number. We do that by having acceptable disagreement or not agreement without options. I just don't get where you're coming from. Someone who's giving you some input when you ask for input. That's not going to help me speak up. So we've got to really work on inventing new sentences. Inventing new sentences. So much of life is about inventing new sentences. If we're not getting the answers or the responses we want, we've got to stop blaming and finding fault. We've got to say, okay, so how else would I approach this? What else could I say? I've got a story that takes about 4 minutes, and I'm out of time today. But another personal story. So a lot of what I've learned has been where I've stuffed up, actually. Oh, yes. Okay. Leadership is 24/7. If I go out and mow the lawns when my wife tells me, and then I break a dish, we only remember the dish breaking. So leadership is 24/7. I'll trust you so long as you walk the talk, so long as you are consistent, so long as the values are observable. You don't stay with the values once, I lose faith in the values. So leaders have to be 24/7 on pace. Constantly on inspection, constantly on derision. And I do a lot of work in the bullying field, and that's a really big area where people are sometimes too scared to approach those situations because the person trying to fix it can end up being bullied. So something which is distinctly missing from today is, if these things are leadership, and you are wherever you are right now in the way you operate, the way you think, then I haven't said anything about what you do to change. And that's all in the book, and with a bit of luck. And it would have helped me tremendously if you had asked questions, because that would seem to make it as if you're watching and you were interacting and I was sort of interesting. So I don't know whether I'll ever be asked back in again, but if I was asked back again, I'd talk about the tools to move from where we are right now to into those leadership, because there's 5 or 6 tools that just work like that. Sentences, habit thinking, a whole lot there. I've got this sheet which I use as a reminder of lots of things that we need to do differently. And so you can just look down on it, and I've got a problem with betting right now. Oh yes, I can see what's happening here. This is what I've got to do. So that's a ready reckoner, which could be really useful. 1 plus a number. Please don't treat me just as a number. And that's command and control. Listen to me carefully and do as I tell you. It's just not the way we want to operate today. I think this is what we want to achieve. What do you think? Or better still, where do you think we should go now? You know, one of the troubles is when me, the leader, me, the manager, me, the owner, me, the chairman, tells you what I think, I squash out a fair bit of your capacity to interact, because if you don't feel safe, you won't say, oh yeah, but. Or you won't say, well, how about this? Because I've just told you what I think. So why would you want to ruffle my feathers and put up another idea? So we've got to, don't treat me as a number, treat me as an individual. I mean, if I add up the years here, you know, there's got to be at least 200 years of experience here. 205, okay? But over here, we've got to get the benefit of the people in our businesses. Ah, that's William. And that's the book. And it's available here today for a third off, for $20. $20 is equal to a cup of coffee a day for 5 days. If it's not Zymol milk, otherwise it's not in the budget already. Okay. We're 30. I've got a minute yet. I wrote the book because my concepts are quite different. The concepts I would share with you again are quite different. And to get hold of the concepts, you need to have examples. And the book's loaded full of examples to help you understand, oh, that's what he meant, or that's how you can use it. I don't make any money out of it, and that wasn't the intent. The intent was, I'm 73 years of age, I'm concerned about youth suicide, and I'm concerned about domestic violence, and I believe if we can get more people acting in leadership ways and connecting with people and growing their self-esteem, less people will go home at the end of a night time at work exhausted, not able to handle things that happen at work, and therefore having eruptions and having disconnections with their families. And that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I'm still working. Thank you very much for your interactions today, and I hope you found some benefit.
Thank you, Rex. Very enlightening, and managing staff is incredibly complex, and often the bigger the organisation, the more complex it can be. So some very terrific insights. One of my key takeaways is empowering staff, and I think that's a really powerful way to move people into action by giving them the autonomy and empowering them to do what you vision them to do. And that goes back to your point where you talk about vision and knowing what your vision is. So if we don't have any more questions from online, no, we're good. We don't have any more questions from in the room. Thank you once again for everyone's attendance and for your questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Rex, for your time today and providing us with the insights. And all the best with your work in mental health, because that is certainly a big and a very important issue. Thank you once again. So our next Envision speaker is coming up soon on cyber security, and that's with Trish Williams and Mike Barber. That's something that we encourage everyone to think about. Cyber is very, very important in today's environment, so we encourage you to clock on for that one as well. So thank you once again.
Thank you. So how do I know you?